Hey guys, welcome back. Origami here, bringing you another episode of our live deck profiles. Thank you guys for watching as always. It's really appreciated, especially those that are like watching immediately, because it's like right now the YouTube drought is real, so we're trying to get back into the game. So if you guys like the content that you see on my channel, please be sure to drop a like. Every like helps dramatically, especially right now. So if you guys like the video and answer the comment question today, you have a chance to win a booster box thanks to our lovely sponsors at Guardian Gaming. The comment question today is going to be, how do you like ADPZ right now? By the way, boom, Guardian Gaming. Because it's a little bit weird right now. It's kind of in a weird place because we lost a lot of the consistency cards. So, and a lot of like the ease of use for Jirachi with a skateboard being gone. So how do you guys like ADPZ right now? I still think it's okay. I don't think it's as amazing as it used to be, for sure. But it definitely has its place in the meta, and I'm really excited about showing you guys my build. I'm going to be doing another build in the future as well. It's going to be going back to tag call. Tag call has access to, Mao and Lana, which gives you another switching card for Jirachi. But this build right here is not going to be playing Jirachi because it's really difficult to squeeze in the Jirachi package in this deck list. I really want to be drawing cards pretty much every turn. So I don't want to play cards like Birdkeeper. I don't want to play Scoop Up Net in this list because there's a lot of cards in this list so it's hard to make space for Jirachis and Scoop Up Nets. So it's a little bit rough in this deck to play Jirachi, so I'm not playing it. I'm actually playing the Piers engine, which is something I'll be showing you guys here in a little bit. I'm really excited about it. I think it's a really interesting take on ADPZ as far as this engine goes. And yeah, we're gonna just hop right into it. So once again, code ORBOM, 10% off at guardiangamingtcg.com. So if you guys want to support the sponsors, feel free to. They're doing, once again, they have like a new discount thing. So if you buy, like, the more codes you buy, you get a percentage off on top of my Origami percentage as well. So it's pretty interesting. Anyways, the numbers in this deck are going to be kind of weird and I'll explain to you why the numbers are weird in this deck list, but I'm trying to optimize for the meta, so I'm making some very interesting choices in the deck list. Agree or disagree, let me know in the comments down below, but it's going to be very unique. So I'm excited. We're doing, of course, 3 ADPs. I think it's so important to find your ADPs in these tag team matchups. You want to be sure that you can attack the Crobats against Eternatus, the Denes, and against pretty much every other deck, and their baby Pokemon as well. You're no longer taking Okos with Zacian, and you're also, because you don't have Metal Frying Pan, you can very easily be OHKO'd in return by a lot of these decks. Even with Metal Frying Pan, you could have been easily OHKO'd against a lot of these decks. So Zacian doesn't have its staying power like it used to. So you really need to use ADP immediately. I'm playing Pokecom in this deck list as well, with a large amount of Pokemon, so that we can find our Pokemon. Like, we need to find a lot of these Pokemon in this deck list per matchup basis. So yeah, ADP, 3 count. I guess we all know what it does, but if you don't know what it does, Ultimate Ray accelerates energies. Ultra Creation GX gives you an extra price if you take a knockout, if you have an extra Water Energy, and it gives you a 30 boost in damage. So we all know what it does. Don't have to go too much into it. And I am playing, of course, we gotta play 4 Sword Doggos because we gotta make sure we use that draw power immediately. Oh, my computer's acting up. Sorry if you guys hear the fan in the background. Hopefully that'll go away soon. But Zacian, we need the Brave Blade, 260 after a boost. 260 knocks out most things, so that's pretty good. For the most part, though, it's kind of like a 2-hit KO machine now. Or like OHKOing the babies on the bench, like the Denes or like any non-V, like single price Pokemon. That's kind of what we use Zacian for, just a way to OHKO the things that aren't V maxes or tag teams. But Intrepid Sword is a great way to draw 3 cards, especially when you go first. But I am playing only 1 Zamazenta. I was playing 2 for a long time, and honestly, I still think 2 is correct, but we had to make so many cuts for consistency's sake that I had to cut it down to 1. And to be honest, when I was testing this deck, I kept prizing both of my Zamazenta. It got to a point where I was just like, why am I even playing 2 if I'm prizing them both anyways? Who cares? So I brought it back down to 1. That's probably a personal thing, but Zamazenta is just so important in this meta right now. It's just, you just sit in front of there's so many different VMAX decks in the format. Inteleon, Scorch, it doesn't really do much against because they can play around it. But then again, you can play around them playing around it with Zacian. So you've got all sorts of different tactics. And of course you have Eternatus, which Eternatus usually just doesn't even have anything that can attack the Zamazenta outside the Hoopas. And then if you boost it with ADP, you're taking 2 prizes off those Hoopas each. Hoopas need to attack you 3 times to OHKO you anyways. So like, Zamazenta, good card. Good card right now. It's kind of like what's carrying this deck in this meta, right? Because I've Zamazenta stalled so many different matchups where I've only had Zamazenta, and then I like set up my bench or just didn't bench anything else and just attack with Zamazenta every turn. Assault Tackle is also great for discarding the special energies in the format. There's quite a few because people are playing Piers. People are putting in random special energies in their deck, so you can punish their special energy drops with Assault Tackle as well. 130, not the best damage. You can't actually Oko Dedenes in this deck, yet alone Crobats, because resistance. So it is what it is, but I am playing one Zamazenta in this build, and then here's the coup de grace versus Eternus himself. We got Mawile GX. So Mawile GX is super interesting. First of all, it's got Captivating Wink, which is you look at your opponent's hand and bench a Pokemon there. You actually do end up benching a lot of Pokemon, especially since people are playing Crobats and Dedenes. Sometimes they like to hold on to their Pokemon because they can just play them the next turn. And it's really great versus things like Eternus because you can force them to bench their Crobats. Since they can only bench one Crobat per turn for their effect, you can force them to bench another one. And that's a waste pretty much for them. But the coup de grace is Wily Bite. His attack does 30 more damage for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So obviously, if a full bench Eternus comes swinging at you, that is 8 Pokemon on their bench, that means you can hit them for 250 damage. So 250 damage doesn't Oko anything, obviously, but what it does give you is a 2 energy attacker versus the likes of Eternus, which is massive. Actually, just having a 2 energy attacker in general is really, really good because, like I said, you essentially become a 2-hit KO deck with this deck, right? So you can hit them really hard with Zacian, get knocked out, and come in with a Mawile and just like Wily Bite them, and against most decks to finish off VMAXs, which is pretty big. 4 prizes, pretty nice. We also have Big Eater. You can discard all the supporters in their hand. It's a decent stall tactic if you're not playing something that you feel like you need ADP in, or if you just weren't able to use your ADP, because there will be some games where you're just not able to use your ADP consistently. It is what it is. It's actually pretty bad sometimes. That's why I changed the deck to be the way it is, because it's so important for you to land that ADP GX attack in a lot of different games. So the deck kind of focuses a lot more on getting that ADP out and also getting the special energy you need on it. So, but yeah, I think Mawile is a super good tech right now in this deck. Just that being a 2 energy attacker is so important since everything else is a 3 energy attacker. As far as everything else goes, we have 1 Oranguru because we are ADP, so we play Oranguru. Then of course we have our tech Pokemon. We have 2 Dedenne, not 4 Dedenne, and 2 Crobat. We are playing Piers. Piers lets you search for dark Pokemon. So usually I'd only play 1 Crobat, but in this deck I'm just gonna play 2. I think you need like a bunch of draw Pokemon. This does increase your odds of leading it, but you do need a bunch of draw Pokemon in this deck, especially since you really need that turn 1 burst. That is 3, 7, 10, 14 Pokemon. It's not the most amount of Pokemon in the world, and you can very easily squeeze in more Pokemon, like a second Zamazenta, maybe another Mawile. I was honestly even debating playing 4 ADP just to give us a high chance of leading it or getting in our opening hand. But this is what I came up with right now for the time being. We'll see where it goes in the future, but still testing this deck. But like this is the deck I came up with after playing like a good 20 games. So it's gone through a lot of testing, and it's definitely won a fair share of games. And most games I have lost versus these VMAX monsters are literally because I keep prizing my Zamazentas when I was playing 2. I brought it down to 1 because, once again, really want to start this ADP. So the rest of the deck is kind of like showcasing how to keep it consistent. But yes, okay, once the thing loads again. All right, double check that we're still recording. Yes, we are. Perfect. Okay, so I am playing 4 Quick Balls and I am playing 2 Pokecoms. It's not the most amount of Pokecoms. It's actually not the most amount of search, but this is what I'm playing right now. I was playing no Pokecoms before. These 2 Pokecoms have helped dramatically with increasing the consistency though. But you know, can't play 4, not enough space for 4. As far as the rest of the deck goes, we really want to make sure we can switch as much as we can. So we are playing 4 switches. And now for our energy stuff, we have 4 Metal Saucers, and we are playing 2 Turbo Patch. Now, Turbo Patch is a coin flip card. That's something to keep in mind. But it's a good coin flip card. This actually lets you attach to the active too. Now, you can't attach to your basic GX Pokemon, so it doesn't work on ADP, but it does work on pretty much all your other Pokemon. It doesn't work on the Den either, or Mawile, but it works on the other Pokemon. So it's a nice way. It's just more Metal Saucers essentially. It is a coin flip, but like, you know, when you land it, it just goes really well. It gives you even more access to your energies, and it lets you attach non-metal Pokemon, non-metal energies either. Of course, we're not playing any basic water energies because I'm not playing a basic search in this deck list, but we are, it can do that. You just don't play the opposite options. I'm also playing Energy Switch. The reason why I'm playing Energy Switch in this deck list is one, it's just a good card in this deck because metal, saucer, and everything like that. But more importantly, it's because there's so much Crushing Hammer in this format right now. So being able to put the energy that they discarded with Crushing Hammer back on its Zacian and then using Energy Switch to put it back on ADP is so good. it comes up quite often. And then for other cards, we have one Toughness Cape. This is actually just for the mirror match. Zama's, if you put a Toughness Cape on Zacian, you are 270 HP, which is 1 HP out of range of the mirror match, which is really, really good. It also comes into play in like some other random matchups. For instance, a snipe into an Inteleon snipe into an attack is not Oko anymore, but is exactly Oko on this. So the random HP buff does come in handy. I want to play 2. I honestly want to play 3 or 4, but once again, as you can tell, space is a problem in this deck. And I'm also playing 1 Chaotic Swell. You kind of need this against these like random Wonder Labyrinths and Black Markets, so it's pretty important to play the random Chaotic Swell. Just 1 is fine though, because literally Black Market can ruin your day if you don't have it. So yeah, as far as the supporters go, now here's another one that's pretty weird. We are playing 4 Research and 4 Boss's Orders. The reason why, like I mentioned earlier, it is so important to hit around the tag teams in this deck. So I am playing 4. Now obviously you don't need 4. You're never going to use 4. But because I'm dumping my hand so much with the Denes, and I'm thinning my hand after Aurora energy attachments, and I'm playing Crobat, and there's just so much going on here that in most of my games, I dump most of my Boss's Orders before I use them. Having 4 is so important because you want to make sure that at pretty much at any given moment, you can knock out something. So my only problem with Boss's Orders, and this is a pretty big problem, is that when you play as many supporters as I'm playing in this deck, your hands can get sometimes really clumped up with supporters. So, and especially since you're playing Crobat, right? So it's not super great, but you really need these Boss's Orders for all sorts of matchups. Ooh, I've been talking for too much. Excuse me, guys. So I'm playing 4 in this deck list. Right now has been doing super well. I've been pretty much able to Boss's Orders any turn I wanted. On top of being able to put them back on top of my deck before I dump my hand with a Ranguru. Although in a lot of cases, I'm not doing that because I'd rather put something else on top of my deck, and it means I'm not as stressed about preserving my Boss's Orders for the rest of the game, which is pretty important in this deck. Like, you want to relieve as much stress as possible because you're already stressed like finding your combo pieces in this deck to begin with. So being able to relieve the stress by playing extra Boss's Orders is pretty good. If you really don't like the Boss's Orders, and this is something I want to try out in a different build as well, just cut out all Boss's Orders and play Pokemon Catcher. And I don't like that at all, personally. I hate playing Pokemon Catcher. Literally, I started Pokemon before I played competitively. When I first started playing this game, forever ago, I used to play Pokemon Catcher, right? And this is back whenever I was with my fiance. Like, we're broken up now, so. But that's who she got me back into this game. I guess she did get me back into this game. So she forced me to play Pokemon with her again, which is why I have the channel. So I guess we should thank her for that, right? But we played Pokemon Catcher, and I kid you not, she was the luckiest woman on the planet. She would land every Pokemon Catcher, and I would whiff every single one. And ever since that day, I don't want to play Pokemon Catcher. But obviously, I'm a grown man now. I only have a little bit of trauma, just a little bit of trauma. So I can suck it up and play Pokemon Catcher. But realistically speaking, I don't want to play a gusting card that relies on a coin flip, even though it's an item. So when it lands, it's amazing. It's still like, it's just so important to land that heads, and it's so important to get that gusting that like you kind of rely on it. So that's all I'm trying to say, is that you rely on it too heavily to really risk the coin flip. So I'm just gonna play a supporter, even though it does clump you up a little bit. I think it's worth it at the end of the day. I'm playing 2 Marnies, and I am playing 2 Piers. Now I have been cutting down on my Marnie counts just because once again I just really want to be as consistent as possible. But you know, as games go on, you need more draw support, and I think Marnie is just too good of a card not to play. So But here's Piers. Now, Piers is a really cool card. If you guys don't know what it does, is you search for a dark Pokemon and an energy card, reveal them, put them to your hand. So this is going to be essentially what Guzman Hala did for you beforehand, but without the discards and pretty much the bare minimum, right? It gets you your special energy, which is your Aurora energy, which we are playing 4 of. And it also gets you your Crobat in the deck. If you want, you can also put in a Zigzagoon, because it can also get you Zigzagoon in this deck. But that's for Scoop Up Nets, Jirachi build shenanigans, right? For this build, it is essentially a draw supporter at the same time as being an energy searcher, which is so important in this deck, because you really need to find your Aurora energies. And of course, there are Aurora energies. You can attach them to any Pokemon you like. So they're good throughout the whole game. It also thins your hand down for things like Crobat as well. So it's essentially, you're drawing even more cards if you get the Aurora energy and attaching that turn, because not only are you playing the Piers, so Piers gets you 1 card, right? Or Piers gets you 2 cards. So it's a +1. But then you play the Aurora energy and you lose a card. And then you're playing the Crobat down, right? So by playing Piers, your hand will be 3 cards thinner, right? Because you're playing the Piers, you're putting the 2 cards into your decks. And then you're playing the Aurora energy and the Crobat down, and the Aurora energy forces a discard. So your hand is even thinner than it was before. On top of what I'm saying is Crobat's going to draw you a lot of cards. I'm just talking a bunch right now, but Crobat's going to draw you a bunch of cards while you're also getting the Aurora energy search. So this is a great card in this deck. Guzmahala, the reason why I'm going to try out the tag team build again is, although Guzmahala doesn't search Pokemon, it gets you the Stadium and Tool, which we have a Stadium and Tool up here, that's nice. And more importantly, you can search Guzmahala and the ADP with Tag Call. So if I want to, I can play a 4 cards. I can play 4 tag calls. That's what I'm trying to say right now. I can play 4 tag calls, and it gets me a supporter and a Pokemon, and that supporter gets me a special energy as well. But Guzmaha is a discard too, which is sometimes super painful. But tag call also gets you Maulana, which is another switch card, which helps you with Jirachi. So I'm very up in the air which one I like more. I like this one more because I feel like Piers is just a really cool card in this deck. So because it's like so low maintenance, and it gets you a draw card at the same time. So Piers is a draw plus search if you look at it that way. So that's why I like Piers a lot in this deck. But this is going to be the deck list right now. I love this deck. I think ADPZ has been a deck that I like playing so much. My only problem with playing ADPZ is that I've always had such bad luck getting it. Even whenever ADPZ was meta and we had acrobikes and everything like that, I always had bad luck getting that turn 1 or turn 2, I guess, GX attack. Which is why you didn't see me play too much on the channel, even though I really did like playing this deck, because fun fact, when the set came out, I went to a pre-release and I managed to get 2 secret rare Zacians through trading, and like a friend of mine who just literally was just like, here, I'll give it to you for like $20. And I was like, yes. So I actually had a good number of Zacians. I had 3 secret rares. I sold 2 of them because your boy is broke and needed money, but because I had 2, I wanted to bling out. And I also used to have like a bunch of secret medals. I had like 7, sold those 2. I pretty much sold all my high rarity stuff at this point, which, by the way, for those of you that have gifted me high rarity cards, thank you. I've probably sold your cards by now, but your gifts were super helpful because I am not in debt right now. I'm a little bit in debt, but I'm not in debt as much as I used to be, and that is thanks to you. You are keeping me alive. So shout outs to all the lovely people that used to give me cards. Shout outs to Gabe. Shout outs to Ty. Shout outs to Devin. Shout outs to Jimmy. Shout outs to all you guys. And I have so many other people, so many viewers who have literally mailed me cards, and you guys are the best. I took a break from Pokemon, like IRL. I sold a bunch of my cards. Specifically, I sold them before this rotation hit, so I got a good amount of money for it. I think I don't have any decks right now. I'm going to be spending this time to decide which deck is my favorite and building it again. I have a good chunk of ADPZ left. I just don't have the Zacians anymore, which means I have to get those again. Also, I'd only have 1 ADP now too, so I'd have to like rebuild it. And I take it back. I barely have any of ADP left. I have 1 ADP and 1 Zacian. But anyways, we got to go into talking about the rest of the decks. So let's go ahead and do that right now. We're gonna move this whole thing over while we're at it. I moved the profile over here because that way that hand zone problem isn't an issue. But yeah, let's put this right here while we talk about the matchups. So matchup wise, anything that's easy for you to OHKO is pretty good. Anything that doesn't play disruption is also pretty good because you're pretty much always able to get up your ADPZ because you have 4 of these, 2 of these, lots of draw power. Hitting Aurora Energy isn't a problem. Hitting the ADP is probably a bigger problem than hitting Aurora Energy, but you have these 6 too. So you essentially have the same amount of ways to hit ADP than you do hitting the Aurora Energy. So setting up the ADP isn't as much of a problem as it used to be. At least now, what the build is before. For those of you, I'm only mentioning this because a lot of you guys watch me on stream and I had a completely different list that was a lot less consistent with the ADP build, but now it's a lot easier to hit. But let's go ahead and go over the match roundup. Like I said, things that you can OHKO, like a lot of lightning decks, you can OHKO, a lot of things you can play around. Toxicity, you can OHKO their Slowbro that they're probably playing. Excuse me guys. Frostmoth, you can play around a lot of their attackers, especially if they're playing the Keldeo build. Of course, anything that's a tag team is scary because that means you're pressured to set up the ADP so you can win the game faster. But anything that's not a tag team, besides probably Blacephalon, although Blacephalon's a lot less consistent, but you're still a metal deck, which means that against Blacephalon, you're probably going to be attacking with ADP the whole game because they usually are not able to OHKO you anymore. So something to keep in mind. But anything that's not a tag team, I guess this could be a problem too, because they have but no, you knock out the Slowbro twice when you win the game. So it's not going to be that problem, especially if you get the boost. But I'm trying to think if there's anything. Oh yeah, so you can be a problem. As you can tell, we play quite a few items in this deck list. And this is flipped. Whoop, whoop, there we go. It's also over here for some reason. Put it over here. There we go. Okay, so as you can see, we play a lot of items. And a lot of our items are the energy acceleration. So being item locked is a problem. You just gotta like go off and probably, well, actually it's not as much of a problem though, because if you can get off with, if you can go off with ADP, right? Then you can accelerate energies onto your other Pokemon, and then from there you should be okay. Their energy denial is only going to do so much for them. So I feel like Vikavolt isn't the end of the world as long as you can get that early setup going. So, and usually, I mean, the deck is designed to do that, so that shouldn't be that much of a problem. But you will lose games because you're not able to set up, and that's just is. I mean, you do that. That's the case for every deck, right? So there's not too much to say there. Decidueye, I'm not playing the text for Decidueye in this deck list. I've decided in this deck list in particular to take the sack to Decidueye. If you want to, Duraludon is a card. It's kind of hard to beat Decidueye even with Duraludon though. Duraludon is a card with the ADP boost, can hit that 140 number to OHKO Decidueye. So 2 things Decidueye are doing. They're usually playing something to increase their HP, a la Giant Charm. So even if they do that, then your Duraludon's kind of a bad card. And 2, like it's not like you're going to be playing 4 Duraludon, right? They're eventually going to knock out all your Duraludons and you're going to lose the game. But you can always knock out. So my argument right now is that you just knock out everything else that isn't Decidueye. If it comes down to lone Decidueye, you versus lone Decidueye, a Ranguru, hit them twice with a Ranguru, which is a thing you can do, obviously. And now you just have to hope that, I mean, you have Turbo Patch and you have Energy Switch. So setting up an Oranguru out of nowhere is not that bad. Setting it up in 1 turn, in 2 turns I should say, is also not that bad. They can only snipe arrow you once if that's the case, which means you're still not in range of being OHKO'd by the split arrow the following turn. So if they have one Decidueye down and you knock out everything else and take plenty of prizes, you can still win the game with Ranguru. Just saying, it's an option. It's just not the most consistent nor the best option. Also, if you feel like if you're not going to be able to get off the GX attack, you can Tingly Return, paralyze them. It doesn't really do anything at all, so forget I said that. Also, you have Mawile, which is pretty nice because that does force benches. So if you let your opponent get a huge hand, which is not always going to happen because they are going to play Marnie, but if you catch your opponent with a really big hand, you can come in with a Mawile and then force bench the Rowlets and then knock them out too. So this is actually another way to play around it. So that's pretty handy. In a perfect world, In a perfect world, you can do this plus a Marnie yourself. That way they have a small hand, so it's harder for them to evolve into the Decidueye afterwards. And then you can the following turn play Boss's Orders. So just a few options out there for you. But that's the best I can come up with, really. Everything else, like I said earlier, if it doesn't OHKO you, you take lots of prizes. It's just a matter of setup. Luke Metal Zacian is gonna be a rough matchup, I think. Not really though, because unless they play the cape, you do OHKO them still with your own boost. So there's that. We already talked about the Eternus matchup. You just want to Boss's Orders pretty much every turn. And it's the same thing with all these VMAX Pokemon. You can knock out all the Silvallis. You can knock out all the Zacians here. You can knock out pretty much anything in this build. Knock out this Galarian Slowbro. You can knock out the Rillabooms, the baby Rillabooms to accelerate energies. You can knock those out. This is why we play high numbers of Boss's Orders, because it's so important to knock out the things on the bench when you're playing the ADPZ. So, in this, you can knock out the Ninetales. Although this matchup, you're most likely going to lose because Ninetales is too much pressure against you. There's not much you can do about it unless you exactly knocked out the Ninetales. But then you knock out the Ninetales, they come in swinging. But you can actually knock out the Ninetales with Zamazenta. So it's actually something to keep in mind, right? If you can knock out the Ninetales with Zamazenta and they can't set up anything else to come OHKO in return, because like I mentioned earlier, the Volcanion can't OHKO you, which means you're going to have to set up 4 energies on the Centiskorch to OHKO you, which they can't do in 1 turn. It requires 2 turns. And then you can play another Boss's Order to take another knockout somewhere else. So it's actually winnable. You just have to play really well, and you have to obviously, like, your opponent has to, I mean, not really, you just have to play really well. Like, and by play really well, I mean get exactly all the cards you need. Obstagoon, always a threat, can't do much about it. Of course, Obstagoon sucks, and you play around Obstagoon the same way you would play around the Decidueye, like I just mentioned earlier, Mawile into some shenanigans, especially Obstagoon, because they do play the nets to reuse the Zigzagoons, which means they are more than likely going to have Pokemon in their hand almost every time, so Mawile becomes a lot stronger in that matchup, and Mawile can take those 2 knockouts pretty quickly, especially if you fill up their own bench, and then you take knockouts and Zigzagoons with relative ease, and it's only 2 energy attack, which is, once again, Mawile's a great card. It's a great card in this deck. Cannot stress that enough. But I think that's pretty much all I need to talk about right now. I don't want to make this video super long like I did the last one, although it is already about the same length, which is why my throat feels like it's about to run away from my from my body. So I'm gonna call it a video here, not a stream. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, as always, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.